Let's give our master of ceremony a big hand. Presiding officer, Dr. Hilton Smith, President, pastor, and legendary leader, distinguished head of this house, for now more than a half century, am I right?
Amen. Amen.
Dr. E.T. Cavaness. Give him a hand. To the honorees and all of those assembled on this historic night, some people think it's cold outside. But you haven't seen Alaska. Somehow, the civil rights movement has always been able to do some of its best work in the ice and snows of Chicago.
You're right, Reverend.
In the heat and rain of places like Alabama, and jailhouses throughout the South and the North.
Yes, sir.
And it is a distinguished honor to give a brief word of introduction to a friend and brother for now more than a half century. Let me lift up one or two things because we have come to hear him. And thank you, Dr. Cavaness and SCLC. I was present in 1957 as a student at Ebenezer Baptist Church when the religious leaders of the civil rights movement gathered to plan the founding of the Southern Christian Leadership Conference. The meeting was interrupted, and Dr. King and Dr. Abernathy had to rush back to Montgomery because of the multiple bombings of churches and homes. And Mrs. Coretta Scott King, along with Dr. F.L. Shuttlesworth of Birmingham, continued to preside over the meeting. I was present 10 years later in Chicago, Illinois, on the campus of the University of Chicago, when Dr. King announced to SCLC and subsequently to the nation and the world that it was time for the organization, SCLC, and the freedom movement to expand its agenda. And we had to deal simultaneously with racism, war, and poverty. And in that expansion, in a press conference, Dr. King announced that the first national director of Operation Breadbasket would be a young seminary student living in Chicago, raising a family out of South Carolina, would become the first national director of Operation Breadbasket, the Reverend Jesse Louis Jackson.
Yeah. Yes, sir.
Many people do not know it, but Jesse Jackson was working for SCLC, a full-time student, and a husband and father, on a magnificent salary of $35 a week. That is literal fact and literal truth. Somebody asked him, how did you get so close so soon to Dr. King? Reverend Jackson said the line was not long. There was no competition to get in that line because it was filled with dangers,
Yes,
toils, and snares.
Yes, sir, Reverend.
And who was in a hurry to stand beside an individual who lived 24 hours a day and a night under the threat of death?
Yes.
He was there
He was there.
in Memphis
Yes, sir.
when the fatal assassin's bullet was fired.
Yes, sir.
He was there
He was there.
in Resurrection City to put poverty on the agenda of America, calling for an end to the war in Vietnam and calling for the new paradigm
Yeah.
to bring an end to poverty under the vision of the Poor People's Campaign.
Yes, sir.
That unfinished agenda.
Yes, sir.
He was there
He was there.
when the urgency came that we needed a new politics in America.
Yes, sir.
So he stepped out in 1983 and
Yes, sir.
84 to run for the presidency
Yes, he did.
of the United States of America.
Yes, sir.
Some people said it was a crazy idea. But in that first campaign, the National Democratic Party was changed.
That's right.
We need to read that history.
Read the history, Reverend.
In the second campaign, coming out of Atlanta, a change had also come, and for the first time, black men and women became an active part of the National Committee of the Democratic Party, and Ron Brown became the national chair
That's right.
of the Democratic Party and went on to become Secretary of Commerce.
He did.
Not only that, another individual, a white courageous worker out of Minnesota, became senator out of Minnesota. He conducted the Minnesota campaign for the Jesse Jackson effort. Another individual in New York, out of the Jesse Jackson campaign, became the first and thus far only black mayor of New York City, David Dinkins. Another black man in Virginia, working in the Jesse Jackson campaign,
Yeah, talk, Reverend.
became the first black governor
Yes, he did.
of the state of Virginia, the Commonwealth of Virginia.
Yeah.
And these are just a few footnotes
Yes, sir. Talk with
of the main chapter. So a revolution has already taken place under the leadership of our friend and brother, Jesse Jackson. But I want to close the introduction by telling you something else. A young black Navy lieutenant was shot down in Syria,
Oh, yes, sir.
and the President of the United States, who was Ronald Reagan at that time, and the Pentagon, and the Senate, and the Congress had no plan
Yeah, no plan.
to get Lieutenant Goodman
That's right.
out of jail in Syria.
Yes, sir. But,
Jesse Jackson
yes, sir. Yes, yes.
paused on the campaign and flew to Syria
Yes, he did. He did that.
with no money,
No money. No money.
on credit,
Credit.
and borrowed money,
Borrowed money.
and talked to the president of Syria,
Yes, he did.
went into the jail cell of Lieutenant Goodman,
Yes.
and went back to the president of Syria and wouldn't leave without Lieutenant Goodman.
Wouldn't leave it out. That's right. Yes, he did.
And time will not permit me to tell you how many folk he brought out of jail in South America. And if I had the wisdom of Socrates, the logic of Plato,
Talk, man.
the eloquence of Langston Hughes,
Well.
the imagination of Maya Angelou, and the leadership capacity of Martin Luther King Jr., and the clarity of Jesus, I could not add one iota to the work and stature of this great man,
Yes.
Reverend Jesse Louis Jackson.
Yes, sir.
Say, I am somebody.
Somebody.
I am
I am.
somebody.
Somebody.
I am
I am.
somebody.
Somebody.
Respect me. Protect me.
Protect me.
Never neglect me.
Never neglect me.
My mind is a pearl. I can learn anything in the world if my mind can conceive it and my heart can believe it. I know I can achieve it. I am God's child. Stop the violence. Save the children. Stop the violence. Save the children. Keep hope
Keep hope.
alive. Keep hope
Keep hope.
alive. Keep hope alive. Let me hear you scream. It is
All right.
so unfair to ask somebody to come behind a Moss introduction. Reverend Moss, thank you for that sermonic introduction. Truth is, Otis knew Dr. King before any of us did before Montgomery. Been a faithful soldier of that struggle for 60 years now, and God has blessed him with so much power and spirituality and thought process. A big hand for Reverend Moss, shall we please? I have no business out here in this ice tonight. But when cabinets called, I couldn't say no. A man of great strength of character who knew Dr. King when he was alive. Dr. King had a lot of followers April 5th. He got his Nobel Peace Prize. He came to this place. Raised most money in a church in America in this place. A friend beloved of Dr. King's and of our freedom movement in Cleveland. We came here, Reverend Otis Hoover and Reverend Nelson and Reverend Weaver and Reverend Cavendish and that whole connection, Arnold Pinckney and Sam Tidmore and George Forbes, and the Hot House was this place, and institutional. And for being a long distance runner, one who's shown his capacity to care, and God has blessed him across the years with strength and power. A big hand. Pastor Cabinets, please stand. The Brother Smith and ministers of the gospel, when I will have shared with you tonight, I'm either going to leave early and hope the plane leaves in the morning, given the snowstorm, or try to drive to Chicago tonight. They had to come to be with you tonight because this is one of those pregnant seasons of thought. Today we had a King celebration in Chicago, and I was overwhelmed with questions about Trump on yesterday. Ignorance in the hand of a powerful man is a weapon of mass destruction.
Well said, Reverend. Well said, Reverend. My. Yes, sir. Yes,
If
sir.
some common white person calls you a nasty name, and they can holler make ends meet and say they're smarter than you because they're white, ignore them, because if they call you, they have a problem. If the person has power, you have a problem. Trump has power. We have a problem. We also have solutions and remedies. He said something about Haiti being part of his S-hole. Number one, Haiti was our ally in the Revolutionary War. Toussaint Louverture defeated Napoleon in Haiti. Chicago was founded by John Baptiste Dupont de Sable, a Haitian, on the Illinois River, founded by Haitian Americans. Every home run Babe Ruth ever hit was made, ball was made in Haiti. Across the years, at one time, the only free black people in the whole world was Haitians. All in South America were under colonialism. We in America, North America, were in slavery. Africa was under occupation. Only Haiti was free. It's been our light, and yet it's paid a big price for it being that light. So we thank God for the role that Haiti has played and how their dignity is non-negotiable. He says something about Africa being part of his analysis. Mr. Trump, Africa is the largest continent.
That's right.
The most endowed continent, a continent with which we have a trade surplus.
Yes.
America's foundation's wealth was Africa.
That's right. Make it plain.
243 years of work without wages. The shipping industry from Africa to America and back was the profit that built Brown and Harvard and Yale and Princeton. Years of labor and resources. Every Firestone tire on your car came from the rubber fields of Liberia, not Romania.
Wow. Yes, sir, Reverend.
The cocoa from Ghana, the gold from Ghana,
Yes.
uranium in all these cell phones, the Congo. It's a continent with the Atlantic and Ocean and the Pacific Ocean's kiss is the Cape of South Africa. Less he knows any better. Today the nation is in shame. Black people who have an insult level are insulted, yet that will not break our spirit. And so in many ways, his ignorance exposes our enlightenment. Thought a lot about coming to this meeting tonight, Brother Tavenus, and about our last staff meeting with Dr. King. Because in some sense it's our job to do the unfinished business. We were always talking about bits of history that we would kind of slide past our ears. Next year will be the 400th year since we've been to America. 2019, 1619, 400th year. 400 years in this country. Like 400 years in Egypt's land, 400 years. 400 years. 243 in legal slavery. The Constitution was written in independence in 1776. We had been in slavery 157 years. We had been in slavery 157 years when independence came. We founded the founders. There was a slave policy before there was an immigrant policy. There was a slave policy before there was an immigrant policy.
Make it plain. Yes, sir.
The only people in the book, 3/5 human being, was African people.
That's right.
Some came to America as immigrants looking for a better land. Some came as refugees looking to avoid oppression. Some came indentured service to work their way out of slavery. Some came against their will. That was us. It seems to me that one of the issues we must deal with is who are us in the scheme of things. When I was a kid, I loved baseball, and Jackie Robinson was our guy. And every year they would play the Yankees and just couldn't seem quite able to win. The Yankees would keep winning. They had no black ball, but we had Don Newcomb and Campanella and Jackie Robinson. And finally in '56, we could beat them, Cabinets, because we had Koufax and Drysdale. In a 4-game series, we could beat them. We could beat them. Koufax announced he was not going to pitch, open the game of the World Series. There was no NBA, no NFL, just baseball was like the game. Why aren't you going to pitch? Well, because it's my holy day. There's something in your life must be important, more important than ball. Say something
Talk, man.
in your life
Man.
must be more important than money and fame and games. Why aren't you going to pitch on that day? Well, because we promised the Lord in Exodus 13:3, commemorate this day. The Lord took his mighty hand and pulled us out of slavery. We can put World Series over slavery. I'm not convinced that we are yet willing to acknowledge God delivering us out of slavery. As I watched many watch night services this year, y'all bear with me for a minute. Good guys come to church and on their knees at midnight, and bad guys go to private parties, but that was not really the deal. The first watch night service was in 1862. Lincoln promised in the fall of that year that if the South did not reconcile, he was going to free us in the South. 5 million blacks in the South more valuable than land, insurance, or banks. And they free us and we could join the Union Army. There'd never been a declaration about freedom before, no time. The Supreme Court just ruled blacks had no rights, fights were bound to respect, to have in a high regard for. Watch this. Christmas Day meant nothing to us. We couldn't go downtown and shop. Had no money. Couldn't leave the plantation. So it was to December the 31st. We watched and prayed and sang all night long. Will he kill Lincoln tomorrow? Will he change his mind? We can't lobby, we can't picket, we can't protest. And around 10 o'clock in the morning, they say with trembling hands, he signed the document. Those who have been slaves will be free as of this day, backed by the U.S. military. First time we were ever free was January the 1st, 1863. The South, the North was losing the war to the South, and we were freed up. Those escaped the plantation and joined the Union Army. We won. We saved the Union, and then the slavery. Some people say, well, you know, the fact is we got free the 13th Amendment. No. If we lost the war, wouldn't have been a 13th Amendment. The South's plan was that number one crop was cotton. We were the king of the cotton pickers. The South that made its own currency, had its own White House in Montgomery, and was going to align with France and Britain and form a new nation. It'd been like North and South Korea, been North and South America. We saved the Union and fought for slavery. In that context, here we come, 1957, all like that. We got freed. There was not much brutality in slavery, a lot of psychological damage to convince us we were inferior. Every now and then somebody would get killed, they would call it running out. But the object was not to kill slaves, they wanted slaves to make other little slaves. Say 200, repeat 200, in 43 years, it's a long time. We were property. Slave masters had no interest in killing us, but wanted us to reproduce other slaves. Once we got free, we got the vote. 8 black congressmen from South Carolina alone. We had the vote without money, without military. And as a result of that, between 1880 and 1955, 1,000 blacks were lynched. Yes. Without one indictment. Emmett Till was toward the end of that season, and they knew who killed Emmett Till. He almost bragged about it in the courtroom, and the New York Times reporter asked, why didn't you convict the killer? So I cannot imagine a white man going to jail for killing a nigger. He walked the streets for 40 years. Same was true with the killing of Medgar Evers. If you don't deal, say if we don't deal with the whereas, we can never get to the therefore. So whereas we did not come as immigrants of our own volition, whereas we did not come as refugees, whereas we did not come as indentured servants, whereas we and we only came as slaves, enslaved by the U.S. government. Finally, a degree of freedom, but never equality. The 4 stages in our struggle. Stage 1 was the end of legal slavery. Nothing else mattered but the ending slavery. Second stage was the end of legal Jim Crow. Because with that, it was the extension of slavery in so many ways. It was the ending of that season. Dr. King led the movement to break the back of Jim Crow. I asked Ms. Parks, why didn't you go to the back of the bus? She said, well, 2 things happened. One, I thought by Emmett Till I couldn't go back. 2, we were testing the 54th decision. The boycott was a victory, but the bigger victory was 1956. We won the lawsuit, said we had the right to sit anywhere on the bus that we chose to sit on the bus. So in 55, the bus boycott began the beginning of the end of legal segregation. But then we had to fight for the right to vote. Another violent divide. The king said, well, here, let's meet. Basement of Ebenezer Church said, well, there's some whites from Appalachia. In the city of Ohio, by the way, 33 counties in Appalachia. You'll never be free until Appalachia gets free, by the way. Appalachia and Huff are kin. As long as coal miners think we're not working, we think they're not working. So coal miners and urban dwellers must find common ground. So we got the right to vote. He pulled in some whites from Appalachia, some Native Americans from the reservations, some Latinos, some of Chavez's group from Southeast Texas, some blacks from Deep South. We planned the March of Washington. Go to jail, disrupt traffic, shift from war and poverty to war in Vietnam to war and poverty. That was our plan. The question becomes, what can we do to finish the unfinished business of Dr. King. I remember that day, Otis, distinctly, where we sat down, we convened. He was ebullient, excited that morning. The whites were singing and the blacks were singing together, and Native Americans were trying to learn freedom songs together. And around noontime, Zanona Clayton came in and brought the cake. The doctor forgot your own birthday. And we laughed, we drank the punch, we ate the cake. The afternoon, we had a workshop on how to end the war in Vietnam. Said Dr. King spent his own birthday at home, breakfast with family, at church, in work clothes, teaching, the building, a coalition, the call for mass action to end poverty, illiteracy, and disease. I raise that because it seems to me that we have celebration that don't have much to do with Dr. King's last staff meeting. Suppose this was the week we registered the most voters annually. So suppose we measure churches by the percentage of voters they registered. Suppose this was the week we registered the most voters. Suppose this was the week we took the most children out of jail, monitored, and adopted them in our churches. Suppose this was the week we decided to have a policy for justice. Suppose this was the week of mass marches. Softness of eating and a greeting and some gifts to some undeserving people, sometimes it seems to me. Dr. King said ours is a battle of hope and hopelessness. I saw it in Alabama. You had Roy Moore running, representing the Confederacy in the worst of yesterday, and Trump supporting him. But the post-Selma movement we defeated them. Without the black vote, Roy Moore would be a senator, and Trump would be victor. Because of Dr. King's work, Roy Moore is adrift. One of every 3 votes in that campaign were black. That's SCLC's work. We won in Virginia. The guy decided he'd run on holding up the statues of Robert E. Lee. He lost. One of every 5 votes was African American. That's our work. Whatever Trump is tweeting, there is now a black lieutenant governor in Virginia, in line to be the next governor. The black lieutenant governor in New Jersey. A black congresswoman from Utah. So no matter what, Pharaoh came, no matter what Uzziah brings, we have a God who, if we trust him. Now, Dr. King said to us, he said, it's not enough to get the right vote. We got to work out how the system works. What would Dr. King say to us tonight? Number 1, protect the vote. We won in 2000, but lost. So we won, but lost. The Supreme Court reconvened and they used states' rights to determine a national election. George Bush got a 534 vote lead, and they discounted 27,000 votes. They discounted 27,000 votes from Duval County. Bush won by the margin to uncounted black vote. Our votes matter. In 2016, one reason Trump is a little off is that Hillary Clinton won the election. She won by 3 million. So anytime you have a 3 million vote lead, you're the winner. I'm not going to join those people who say that I don't think he's crazy. They've done some tests, and I think they would. One test it did was it said, Trump, we say in, you say out. Up, you say down. In, out, up, down. Say Easter, you say Jingle Bell. Christmas, you say Easter Bunny. That's one test he failed. Number one, protect the vote. No one has a right to benefit from the vote and don't vote.
That's right.
Secondly, affordable health care. 25 million Americans had health care under President Barack Obama. They got so slick they named, so there is no bill called Obamacare. There's a bill called Affordable Health Care. They call affordable health care Obamacare is putting a black hand over its face. When Gant was winning in North Carolina by 2 percentage votes, the weekend of the big election, they ran the ad with a black hand taking something from white people. He lost by 2 points. This is the first guy to go to Clemson, an architect, the mayor of Charlotte. They took it from him by putting the black hand over the white hand. That's all they did with affordable health care. You had people in Kentucky and in Ohio. Yeah. They wanted affordable care, but didn't want Obamacare. They wanted the omelet, but didn't want the egg. So anybody wants omelet, don't want the egg, something missing. We need we need affordable health care for everybody based on need, not just based on money and passing tests. That woman came to Jesus and crawled through the crowd. If he had stopped and said, ma'am, what's your name? What's your whole name? Are you married? When last you had a job? She could have died under interrogation. He would have lost his divinity. If she had the faith, and God has the power. And that was enough. In this battle, if we finish out the king's business, this is our year, 2018. If we vote our hope and not our fears, we can win this battle. We can send Trump back to 7 houses. His base is Moscow, ours is Montgomery. We're going to win this battle. If you hold on and don't give up, and that becomes the big challenge we have tonight, holding on and not giving up. Because so many of us, we're so easily discouraged. We didn't lose, we won. And I think, why would SCLC end up coming to Cleveland? Because most of us in Cleveland hadn't won anything.
What?
Had bigger houses and bigger jobs. We won the battle to sit on the front of the bus. We won the battle to go to the theater. We came north with a winning record. Cleveland said, come here and help us out. You would think Cleveland would be going to Montgomery. Montgomery had to come to Cleveland. Had a lot of money, but would not say we had a lot of money. Good job. UAW. But hadn't won anything. There's no that'll leave you. A man was walking down the street tending to his business one day, and thieves jumped behind the bush and robbed him and left him to die. Of his own religion, he walked past and went to the other side, and another man of his on ethnic group. He walked and left him to die. Another man from another country, another culture, worship God differently, the Samaritan. So every now and then somebody will come along, another side of town will save you. Don't let them break your spirit. I think about Mandela being in jail in South Africa for 27 years. One Sunday morning he walked out and freed his jailers. The felon is now at the highest stature in the new South Africa. Thanks be to God for interfering with injustice. Dr. King hitting the head with a brick in Chicago and shot in Memphis. Agreed before he was killed. Now he's the King of Kings. The most moral authority of any leader in the world today, because he never gave up. And I say to you tonight, I have detected to have had Parkinson's some time back, and it affects many facets of your work. But I'm not going to give up on Parkinson's, because I know somebody